8.3, JavaScript Basics Part 1. Yeah. So in this part, so let us learn some basic things that can help us start using JavaScript in HTML documents. First, how to add JavaScript to HTML document. Yeah. It's very simple, so let us look at a simple example. Yeah. In HTML, JavaScript code is inserted between a pair of script tags, script. Yeah. How to insert, let us look at this simple example. Yeah. Between that pair of script tags, we just write JavaScript statements. Yeah. JavaScript commands, statement. Yeah. Later, most frequently, we write definitions of JavaScript functions. Yeah. So most frequently, we put a lot of JavaScript function definitions. Yeah. Later you will see many such examples. In this example, just one JavaScript statement. Yeah. What's the meaning? Let me explain a little bit. First, what is this document? Document object. This document we call the JavaScript document object. Yeah. To understand this concept better, so what is document object, right? Later, we have one section we talk about DOM concept. What's the DOM concept? Document object model. So later we will use one big section to explain this concept, document object model. Yeah. Here we just grab a document object, then we can use it to do a lot of things. All right, so let us just grab the document object. This object represents the whole HTML document. So we can use this object and all the methods inside this object to access everything represented inside this object. Yeah. Object-oriented. In this way, we call JavaScript object-oriented scripting language. The meaning is this. All right. Then this method, get element by ID. All right. From the name, you know the meaning, right? We want to get control of certain element, some element. We want to get control of it. But how to get control? You use this method of the document object. Get element by ID, the name of the method. All right, which element? Then the string inside the parenthesis, the string as the parameter of this method, demo. All right, right? Yeah. So then the demo element, that control is available now. All right, you get the control of that particular element. All right, then we access inner HTML. Yep, from this name. So you can say instance variable name, right? Inner HTML, inner instance variable name. Okay. Inner HTML. We want to set the data for inner HTML instance variable. Okay. Yep. What corresponds to inner HTML, right? What corresponds to this instance variable, right? In an element, yeah. Look at one typical element. Yeah, here, let me use the space here. Oh, so one element, all right? So any element, all right? Any element. Then you have content inside, right? Yeah, this content we can access using this inner HTML, this instance variable to access. How simple it is, right? How simple it is. All right, so, all right. Then, what content do we want to set? This string is the content we want to set. Okay, yeah. So here I explain this JavaScript statement in full detail so you can understand how do we use one typical JavaScript statement. All right, yeah. Then we have another piece missing, this one. Where is the element, right? With the ID, get element by ID, so we need this, address this part. Which element has the demo as the ID? This one. Span element, yeah, span element. Do you remember span? What is span element, right? Here, let me just give you its meaning another time. Some of you may not remember. First, when we use span element, we put certain content in this element, and this element, when we use it as inline element. Inline element, not block element. So you know the meaning of inline element, right? Yeah. When we use span, we want to create an inline element. All right, yeah. Here, the ID is demo. Yeah. So then, original initial text is this one, but after we call this function, JavaScript function, then the content will be changed to my first JavaScript, that string. You replace the old string by a new string, and this is dynamic, right? Dynamic. You change something. You change existing content. That's the dynamic feature. All right, yeah. So in this simple example, so we can see a lot of things. All right, next. Regarding the script tag we use to include JavaScript code, the old way, we need to specify type. Old way. So this is the old way, old JavaScript example, old way. The reason you have this type attribute is when people design the, include old JavaScript in HTML documents, at that time, they feel JavaScript probably is just a one option. Later, you may have other scripting languages, right? Other important scripting languages. So if you change different scripting language, then you just change the type here. Okay, all right. So that's at the early stage when people design JavaScript scripting language. But after decades, right? So let's remember the history. That video starting from 1995. 1995. More than 2 decades. More than 2 decades. After such a long time, only JavaScript is the, solid scripting language at the client side. No other player. You cannot see any player doing similar things. So for that reason, the new JavaScript, let's drop that type attribute, right? The default is JavaScript. The default is JavaScript. Why we need to specify it? We don't need. Okay, yeah. So it is simplified. Yeah. Right now, you can see this type attribute will be dropped for the new version JavaScript. Yeah. All right. The type attribute is not required. JavaScript is the default scripting language in HTML. So it's a natural thing. Yeah. All right, next. Yeah. You can place any number of scripts in an HTML document. Yeah. You can spread the script element. What's the meaning? So you have a script element right here. You can put multiple script elements, different locations in your HTML documents. So that's the meaning. Yeah. All right, yeah. Scripts can be placed in the body element. Yeah, body element, that location. So anywhere you can put the script element. Yeah. Or in the head section. Yeah, you have the head section. That's also a good place. You can put the script element. Yeah. Or in both. Yeah. Another thing, yeah. Placing scripts at the bottom of the body. Yeah. Because you have different places you can place JavaScript code. So here, this fact tells you the better way to put your JavaScript. Better way, yeah. Placing scripts at the bottom of the body element. So why bottom? Yeah. Because the web browser interpret and render the HTML document based on the order of the text, the elements, based on the order. Yeah. First come, first serve. If you put the bottom, that part will be served, processed at the end, right? Near the end. But in that way, the beginning part, the early elements of your HTML document will be rendered earlier. Rendered earlier means you will see the content of the page faster, earlier, right? Yeah. Think about if you move the JavaScript part earlier in the HTML document, then the browser needs to spend time to interpret that JavaScript code. Your JavaScript could be large, could be pretty large. It takes some time to interpret it. Then the whole page render process will slow down. That's the explanation. Okay, that's the explanation. All right. Yeah. But here, although this fact, it is true, this fact is true, but if you look at more and more JavaScript examples, you will see most programmers, they like to put the JavaScript code at earlier part. They like to do that. They like to do that because it's more convenient. They can see JavaScript code faster, in a more convenient way. Here, the convenience versus efficiency issue. Yeah. They like convenience a little more than the efficiency. All right. So here I feel, now we should take this way. When your JavaScript code is not that big, yeah, most of the time, 90-something% of the time, your JavaScript code is not that big. It's not that big. Then you can put the early part of the document. If your JavaScript code is really big, okay, very big, really big, then it's better to put the end of the document. Yeah, so that will improve the efficiency, translation time, interpretation time. All right, yeah, let us move to the next topic. Next, external JavaScript. We may like to use JavaScript as external scripts. External, so you can guess the meaning. Yeah. Not inside the current HTML document directly, outside. Outside. You write independent JavaScript file. Yeah. Not included in the current HTML document directly. It is an independent JavaScript file. That's the external. Yeah. All right. In that case, In that case, we can still connect the current HTML document and external JavaScript file. Yeah, we connect them so we can call JavaScript functions defined in an external file. Yeah. This way, very convenient when you have relatively more JavaScript functions. Think about it, you have many JavaScript functions. And especially, you like to use your JavaScript functions in many web pages, not just the one web page, many web pages, right? Yeah, that happens frequently. In that way, external JavaScript way, much better, more efficient. Yeah, here, used in many different web pages. Then that's the efficient way, external JavaScript efficient way. All right, next, JavaScript files have the file extension JS.js. Okay, yeah, JS extension. If you use this extension JS, then the web browser will use the JavaScript interpreter to interpret the commands. Otherwise, your web browser won't process it, right? Your web browser may not process it. Think about that, right? Yeah. So that's the possibility. Yeah. Yeah. But another thing is, if you use the standard extension, IDE. Think about IDE. Yeah. Because right now, developers, or most of the developers, they use IDE to write their code. Yeah. When you use the .js extension, the IDE will use JavaScript features to provide you a lot of convenient features. Yeah. All right. Yeah. The next one. Yeah. To use an external script, put the name of the script file in the src source. Yeah, we saw this attribute in image tag, right? img tag. But here for JavaScript, we use this attribute src source. Yeah, we specify the source. Yeah. All right. How to do it? Yeah, in the simple example, you can see script element tag, then src attribute, then your JavaScript file name. But when you do this, you expect this JavaScript file is in the same folder of your current HTML file. Otherwise, you need to use certain path. You need to use certain path, right? Something, then your file, JS file .js, something like that. Okay, yeah. So you know how to handle that. All right, yeah. So then you can place an external referencing head element or body element. Yeah. Okay. Next, the script will behave as if it was located exactly where. Yeah. So you just understand the script can be copied, yeah, then executed in that location. Yeah. Location is important, right? Yeah. All right. External scripts cannot contain script tags. Yeah. Yeah. In external, you just write the JavaScript statements directly. Do not use another script, yeah, tags. No. Yeah. All right. To add several script files to one page, use several script tags. Yeah. Look at this example. Yeah. sometimes we may have multiple JavaScript files, right? Each file you want to include some type of special functions. Yeah. So you have JavaScript function in different categories, right? Different categories. So you use different JavaScript files. So that's also possible. Yeah. So you can include file 1, file 2, as many as you like. Yeah. All right. Then another concept. Cached JavaScript files can speed up page load. So what's the meaning of cached JavaScript files? Yeah. Let me give you the background. Yeah. Cached here, yeah. When your JavaScript code is loaded into the web browser, it is cached. Your web browser has some cache, maintain some cache, yeah, in the memory of your client-side computer, yeah, maintain. All right. For example, suppose you have 5 HTML documents. All these 5 HTML documents need to use the same JavaScript file, external JavaScript file. Okay, yeah. Page 1 through page 5, they need to use the same external JavaScript file. All right. When you visit the first page, that external JavaScript file is loaded into the web browser cache and keep there. Yeah, keep there. All right. Then next, you visit page 2. You need to use the same JavaScript external file. You do not need to load it another time because it is already in the cache. So that's the cached JavaScript file, right? Already in the cache. So it just used the, the one in the cache to do the job. Similarly, page 3, page 4, page 5, just use the cache version, right? So in this way, you can speed up the page loads. That's the meaning, okay, of this sentence. Yeah. All right, another one. External scripts can be referenced with a full URL. Yeah. So this time, suppose you have an external JavaScript file, all right? But that JavaScript file is not at your own server. It's not at the server, same server with the HTML document. It's in another different server, all right? Different. The external JavaScript comes from a different server of this HTML document. That is also okay. In that situation, you only need to specify the full URL of that JavaScript file. Then you can still use it the same way as you use from the same server. Okay, yeah, that's the meaning. Or with a path relative to the path, in this case, means from same server, right? Same server. Same server, you use the path relative. This means the different, you use JavaScript from different server. Okay, yeah, 2 cases. Yeah. Here, let me give you the example from different server. All right, so this example, yeah. This example, we use the JavaScript from the Google CDN. Google, yeah. Google, they maintain CDN library files for JavaScript, for a lot of things, a lot of libraries, yeah. Here, we can use their Google libraries directly using this way, script element src, then full URL, right? So this is the full URL, that case. Google server definitely different from our own server, right? our own server. So we use in this way. That's okay. So you do not need to download. If you want to download that, that's fine. You can download to your local server. But many times we just use the remote JavaScript libraries directly. Yeah. But we want to make sure the availability of those remote JavaScript libraries, availability is good, is solid. Yeah. Otherwise, when you need it, it's not available. Shut down. Then you have trouble. In that case, you may like to have a backup copy on your local server. So you can use your local copy. Yeah. All right. So let me finish our last video because we run out of time for part A. So let's stop here for part A.